There we go.
There we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Striving to Thriving, Redefining Success. I'm your host, Barbara Ellison. I'm founder of Total Wellness Playroom for the best version of your life. And we are here to have a great conversation about how we have ourselves with my guest host Anke and her panel of ladies, that how we've had to redefine success in our lives, because we've all had to do it at some point or another. And I am so excited for today's conversation. So, Anke, welcome to the show. Tell us who you are, what you do, and then introduce your panelists.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I have played here before on this stage before when I was one of the panelists, and I enjoyed it so much that I thought I want to play. So here I am, very excited to be here and have some amazing guests in the room. So I'm one of those multi-passionate people who can't ever do just one thing other than bringing ideas to life in the real world and bringing all my background, creativity, tech, psychology, everything I've learned to the table to help my clients who are coaches, educators, experts, who want to build a boutique business. They want to spend their time doing work they love without scaling the life out of it and still have ease and freedom in their lives without getting eaten up by their business. So that's what I do. And I have, my favorite people in the room today. So I will actually pass the mic to let everybody introduce themselves. I start with Lonnee. She's right up there. And she's just helped publish an amazing book. Well, she's published lots of books, but I was involved in one. My fur baby wrote this book. I have to plug it. It's just the most amazing piece, and she is such an amazing guide and has helped bring this idea to life. So Lonnee, I'm super excited to have you here. Well, you go. Give us the 30-second intro Lonnee way, because she's like a wordsmith. You're gonna have a laugh.
Yeah, word nerd has no words. You just took them all out of my mouth. Thank you so much for that introduction and for this opportunity. I absolutely love helping people to zhuzh up their content, tell their story in a way that they were born to say and know in a certain way. It's really exciting to me to give people the tool that they need to succeed and to take the zip line of the finish line. For me, that means getting books published very quickly and in weekend workshops that are very productive. It just makes me happy to do that because it helps other people to fuel their future. And that's what I do as a book producer and word nerd. Yeah, that's it.
Word nerd. I love it. Everything rhymes. I just love it. Just gonna go around. Diane and I, we met because somebody we both know said, hey, you should meet because you're gonna love each other, and we did, right? So she's the story queen. And we've had plenty of conversations that were sort of planned to be short and weren't. So Diane, let us know, where in this lovely world are you coming in from, and what should people know about you?
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm delighted to be here with all y'all. And we connected because somebody put us together as flamenco dressing costume creators and storytellers. And thanks to Zoom, we get a chance to communicate from Whidbey Island, Washington, all the way over to where Olga is in Spain. However, downside of the internet has been a whole lot of little algorithm-driven sound bites that masquerade as wisdom. And what I find women really crave and really want and really desire is authentic narrative. And so what I help them do is figure out what their origin story is. I work with women lawyers and professional women leaders, so that we can get to that origin story, shape it, share it, and get it out there so that you can connect with the people that you want to connect with and figure out how to lift up this world, make it a little bit better than when it went to bed.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Thank you. Lesley,
Wow.
Lesley, She's in the same, well, we never know where Lesley is right now, right? Because Lesley kind of moves around a bit. But we first met when she was living not far from where I am, and she'd also left a corporate career in the UK, and her dog kind of had the idea for a business she started, and that, you know, until COVID, she made the most delightful sea glass jewelry, you know, and she was like, oh, this sounds like a good idea, just like the flamenco dress. It sounds like a good idea. What could possibly go wrong? And really delightful pieces. And the dogs connect us. So why don't you fill people in, like where you are right now and what you're doing these days?
Yeah, let's start with that. I think I might be slap bang in the middle of everybody because I am in the Canary Islands in the middle of the Atlantic. So halfway between the States and mainland Spain, where Anke is. So I've moved away from the sea glass jewellery now. But Anke's right, I did leave a corporate career and I moved into still doing the same kind of corporate work. I'm a consultant, but I also teach other people how to start a consulting career, because what it's done for me is allowed me to work remotely from a beautiful sunny island, and it means that I get paid more for working less. And that's what I want for everybody, especially women who've had enough of corporate BS, want to do something different, want more freedom, want to feel more valued, want to get paid what they're actually worth. And that's what I do. I run a program that helps them to do that. So from my lovely island.
Awesome. And she's an author too.
Yes.
Just like, you know, that's not even making.
Oh, yeah, let me just drop that in. Best-selling project management author as well. So who knew that project management was so popular? So, and I've got dogs as well, my babies, as Anke says, that's what connects us. So our fur babies.
Awesome, thank you. Ivy, my Ivy, I want to give you a hug through the screen. we met, I don't know, it feels like a long time ago, but it probably wasn't more than a couple of years, I think, in a program where we both were clients, and we just hit it off, right? So we hit it off, and so she's got the most incredible story of reinvention and resilience, and, you know, I'm going to hand over the mic to you because you know how to tell that story way better than I ever could.
Well, thank you, Anke. First of all, I'm really honored and thankful to be here with all of you. I'm a certified professional coach and a keynote speaker, but more than that, I'm a freedom fighter because I've had many adversities in my life. And what I do now, and I guess we'll get into this more later, is I really offer tools and community to help women and men, but mostly women, overcome adversity and turn it into their greatest curriculum for growth, so they can really, really achieve their current version of success and live fully liberated lives sustainably and joyfully. And I think that's all I'll say for now, because I know we're going to get into it, and you better put your seatbelts on. That's all I can say.
I agree. Barbara, do you want to introduce you? You know, you introduced you before the mic was on. Why, you know, can I just throw you onto the stage?
Absolutely. And you know, that's and this show came out of my little piece of adversity. My husband passed away 13 years ago. And when I woke up from my widow's fog, I realized that I had absolutely no idea of who I was outside of all the labels that I had put on myself, of being a daughter and being a wife and then being a mother and then being a divorced failure. Oh, but then being a successful wife again, a business owner, a grandmother, and now I'm a widow. Who is Barbara in all of that? And I can tell you exactly where I was sitting and what I was doing when I had that light bulb moment. And but right at that moment too, it was the most scariest moment of my life because I had no idea how to find out. What I knew I had to. And I was blessed to be introduced to a coaching program. And partway, several months after starting the coaching program, went to another event, and it was like a personal development event. And I went, this is what I want to do, because there's got to be more people out there who are like me, that they have no idea of who they are, of personal identity, and because we're not brought up that way. And I went, oh, I'm going to do this. So now I work with late career business professionals who are facing retirement, and they have no idea of who they are outside of their job title and their job description. And what am I going to do that I don't know who I am? Their health could very possibly be failing from the stress, and they don't know how they're going to pay for their lifestyle when they leave the corporate job. And it has been absolutely amazing to be able to help people, men and women, but tend to be mostly men, to get in touch with who they are and what they want for the rest of their life, so that they thrive in retirement. They don't just survive it. So that's me in a nutshell. So thank you for asking, Anke. So yeah, let's go around the room. Let's have a conversation.
Love it. Love it. So we're going to start with the origin story. Should we do, like, Barbara, what do you suggest? Like, should we go like one story at a time? I think that worked really well when Teresa.
Yeah, a little backstory, and then we'll just have a conversation about what we did.
Yeah. Okay. So I think let's start with, like, what's the backstory? What's the story that got us on that path of, I would say, even questioning the path we're on, right? Because I think that's where it starts, to even think about, like, is that even something that could be changed? You know, that comes long before, you'd actually decide to make a move.
Right. Yeah, everything starts with the thought. So what was the thoughts? But it's like, okay, I cannot go on like this for another minute, was me. I cannot go on like this for another minute.
I think sometimes it's an external event, or it can be a health event that triggers the change. So I have a lot of clients, women especially, who are stressed, having anxiety attacks, panic attacks. They have the Sunday night dread, and it gets so bad that they literally cannot switch on their laptop the next morning. And for me, it was a panic attack. I was working in Canary Wharf in London, the heart of the finance district, in a bank, HSBC, big global bank. Everybody knows HSBC. And I was a chief operating officer. Big job, big corner office, big shoes, big hair, big handbag, big unhappiness and big stress, and no life to speak of. And I got to the point where I remember it, just like you said, Barbara, you remember that moment. I was sitting on a park bench out in Canary Wharf, calling my friend, the tears streaming down my face, because I just had another run-in with my bully boss. And I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I don't know if my legs are actually going to carry me back into the building. I need to change. I need to do something different. I can't be held hostage to this toxic culture, to this bullying environment. And now I hear the same kind of story from the people that come to me, because they want out as well. It's that corporate environment. So that was my turning point.
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
Next, Lonnee, do you want to go next? I'm just going to call you out, so we're not sort of sitting here staring.
Okay, all right. So many turning points in my life. I just decided that I couldn't be whatever I was shown as I was growing up. So there's a lot of personal growth and evolution, studies in metaphysics, paranormal, and so on. It started when I was 21. So I've been a seeker. Surely there's better somewhere. Yes. Surely I can find it. And as circumstances had it, one time, as a professional tumbleweed who loves adventure, and Pippi Longstocking was my hero, I tumbled into somebody's world, and in their basement was a cassette tape, and it was Tony Robbins. And instead of all the theory, that's how old I am. It was a cassette tape, y'all. Instead of a bunch of theory that I'd been reading for a while, it was Action Jackson stuff, and that changed my life. And really, honestly, the thing that changes lives, and I love to ask this question because of Tony, is that, the quality of your life really depends on the questions you're asking of it and yourself. And that was a turning point for me. He illustrated an example. You could ask yourself why, if you want to lose weight, why am I so fat, or how can I lose weight? You'll get answers to both.
Right.
And so I decided that I wanted to be happy someday, somehow, some way, somehow. Please, God help me. And so I went on that path. And as a result, I've been able to turn around, come back with a lantern and a laugh, and show people the path by being it. And that is to ask the question, my goodness, my camera loves to dance. How can I have more fun today than I ever thought possible? And that question sets and resets your mindset, because multiple times in a day we can get kind of sucker punched by the world, whatever the heck's going on. And it can be hard to make solid decisions, or at least sane, when we're in reaction mode. And so I found that by asking that question, and it answers itself, you don't have to sit there and thump your head and go, how am I going to have fun? I don't know. Just ask it, let it go, see it, say it, let it go, name it, claim it, make it so. And it will go. And honestly, if you remember to look back at the end of the day, you will have had more fun than you ever thought possible.
I want to interject this. I love what you just said, because that's why I do this show.
Thank you.
Everybody that has come on this show has said the same thing. Oh, it was such fun. Because we can do what we do and have fun with it.
Yes.
So yeah, thanks, Lonnee. That was great.
Thank you.
I love that. Love it.
Thank
Diane,
you.
what's your backstory? What got you on the road?
I've been thinking about it because there isn't just one. And when we look at one of the reasons that you and Barbara put this program together, I think you were saying, how can you do something different than others? How can you stay outside of, or move outside of, the so-called tried and true, the habits and the patterns and the behaviors that we've been simmered in. And I mean simmered in like a frog in warm water that keeps getting hotter. How can we lift ourselves out of that? And as listening to all y'all, I'm remembering how I did it differently. And just because that's the spirit of who I am, but it wasn't easy, and I didn't always do it right, and I made mistakes. But I remember how I left a corporate position. I walked out, pretty big corporate position, and I walked out. I'd had it. I'm sure that there were better ways to do it, but I left. I went into the practice of law, and that wasn't suited for me the way I saw myself in the practice of law. And with these little steps of leaving something that has no meaning for you, that doesn't line up with your values, your character, who it is that you say you are, I think these are all steps toward carving away what isn't us, so that we can shrive what doesn't work for us and step into what does. And so one of the things that I stepped into was lightning rod communications. My husband had left. I was left with a mortgage. I wasn't getting alimony just because that's the way it was. And I was working for $7 an hour at a farm stand. And I was happier than a pig in mud, but you can't pay the bills that way. And someone said, why don't you go back into what your true love is, which is story? And so I started teaching story at university, and into my class come lawyers, litigators. And the guys that are supposed to be, the guys and the women that are supposed to be in court, arguing on behalf of their clients. And they're coming to me to learn how to be storytellers. I thought, well, okay, there's something I can do. And that role led me to create my own practice, Lightning Rod Communications. And I was a litigation consultant to plaintiffs' lawyers, those who are representing the rights of the plaintiffs, those who have been harmed. And I ran with that on a national basis for about a dozen years. And then things happened. The economy changed, and the practice of law changed, and other things changed. And so it was time to make a change. And so what I did is I walked the Camino de Santiago, 5 weeks, 500 miles to go find myself. But I will say this, there was no burning bush with a voice that came out of the middle of it. I wondered if I was really a good pilgrim. I was making a poor pilgrim. But I will tell you that walk is the BC and AC of my life. That is the defining moment of who I was to become next.
Love that. Love that.
Yes.
Ivy, over to you. What's your backstory?
Oh boy. Well, there have been many, many times in my life when I knew that something had to change, but unconsciously, I didn't really listen to that voice. I listened to the voices outside of me. You know, I always looked like the epitome of success because I had become a remarkable fix-it girl and a remarkable peacemaker in order to be safe and to be loved and to eventually have my children safe and loved. But one day, it was a beautiful, beautiful summer morning. I was asleep and I heard a knock on the door. And I assumed it was a neighbor coming to walk the dogs as we did every day. And in a scanty pink nightgown, I sauntered down the stairs to say, "Why are you here so early?" And this is where you put your seatbelts on, ladies, because that door went flying open. And behind it were 21 FBI agents at gunpoint. That was the moment that my life changed forever. That little voice was saying, "You don't know me," the one I never listened to, the one that I had silenced, the one that I had tucked away for so long. And it was screaming, but I was silent as they chained me to my toilet, read me my rights. And I was so cold that the urine coming out was burning me. And all I could think of was, "You don't know me. You don't know me." It was in that moment that I knew that I had been living backwards. I no longer could look like the epitome of success and feel bankrupt inside. I needed to find that voice and make a choice and take a chance and become the change I wish to see. And all I can say is over the next 2 years, I fought for my life. But once again, the injustice of the system looked at what I looked like and what I had, and I was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison.
Wow.
And I lost everything externally that I worked my whole life for. And internally, I realized that I had been in a prison long before I manifested going to one. And over the last 15 years, I've learned I'm not alone. The voices we don't listen to because we're not good enough. We are confused. We've been told, stand by your man. It didn't matter if it was the abusive business partner or the baby daddy that was beating her or the husband that was cheating on her. Every woman that I met in that sea of 200 suffering strangers had the ability to make that choice, to take a chance, to rewrite that story and identify and sit. There was nowhere to look outside ourselves, so we had to look within. And I had the good fortune of breaking my ankle, an adversity that gave me a chance to have a room of 62 women who needed to get their GEDs, and I became their teacher. And what I started to do, because none of them wanted to be there, was listen to their stories and invite them. Is somebody's phone ringing?
That's mine. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. It was like a Tweety bird was tweeting.
That's what I say. Life happens. This is a live show. Sorry.
Okay. And so I realized that these women had, just like I, different content, same story. Lack of self-worth, lack of being good enough girl, not listening, not making a choice to take a chance, squeezing themselves into an outcome in order to be safe and loved instead of being who they were, truly doing what they loved, which they didn't even know what that was or that they were capable of, and trusting the process that they'd have more than they could ever imagine, and that so much more was possible if they trusted the process. So I'll leave it there for now. And there's a lot more to say, but I don't want to hog our space.
One of the things that I have found, and it goes along just with what you're saying, Ivy, is that so often, like in the age group that I'm working with, we are brought up to do X, Y, Z, so that we can have ABC, and then once you do and have, then you'll become.
I always say that it's have,
I
do, be versus be, do, have.
We've got to do the be part first. Be who you are meant to be with your God-given talents and your God-given skills, and that person that you are meant to be. Because then once you know that, then you're going to do what you're supposed to be doing, what you're called to do, and then you'll have everything.
And that's where the process really
that's where the process starts.
Is because what happened was I never served 60 months. I received a letter that released me early, which is a story for another podcast.
Yeah.
But I was released to a halfway house in not such a great neighborhood here in New York. And in the first 3 hours where they let you out to get toothpaste and shampoo, I was mugged. And as I laid on the ground on Fordham Road with a dislocated shoulder, unable to get up, all I could think again in that storyline of how did I land here, as if I was a victim of this versus had the choice to be the heroine of this story. And some man helped me up, the shoulder popped back into place. And it was right then and there that I knew, in that moment, it was really the pivotal defining moment, that I had marginalized as a real estate developer, neighborhoods and families and women unconsciously for the last 20 years, and that now I had become one of them. And if I, a privileged, educated woman, couldn't make it in her first 3 hours of freedom, what about the women I left behind? And that was the moment. That was the moment when it all changed. And, I crawled back to that halfway house and I found my voice and demanded that they let me go back to school. And a year later, I became a coach. And now, 11 years later, I've coached thousands and thousands of women on being who they are, finding who that is, handing them the tools to try on what they love and trust that they will have more than they ever dared to dream possible. And it's just remarkable to walk alongside and say that little tweak to be the change you wish to see in your world trickles down to their families, their communities. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Do you think that some of the stories that we're told when we're young are at fault? Because I grew up with Cinderella, the prince is going to come and save me. And then Cosmopolitan magazine, you're not going to be complete until you've got your career and your designer shoes and your designer handbag and you're living in the right place and having city girl life and all this. The career went hand in hand with that. And what I found was I did all that. I went to school, university, got good grades, got a good job, worked my way up. And when I got there, I had a look around and I thought, this is what I've been working for the last 20 years or whatever it was. And it took me a while to realise that I was living someone else's story of success.
Right.
That's not success for me. Success for me is being able to close my office door at lunchtime and take my dogs to the beach and don't have to worry about coming back at a certain time. I've got freedom. I can go and spend money on dog treats. There's a dog theme here because I know Anke's on this panel. I can go and buy.
Like you're living from the inside out, not the outside in. It's nobody's fault that we're conditioned that way. It's whether we buy in or not. Okay. And once you find out that what's outside of you have no control over and isn't your story to tell, and you rewrite your own, that's when liberation comes.
I wonder, what's the story now? What is the story that young women especially are being told now that they're buying into, that they have to be a successful influencer on Instagram. They all have to look the same with their appearance. I don't know.
There are many stories. There are many stories. I mean, as just evidenced by the elections in the United States, there are many, many stories. It's up to each and every one of us to know ourselves, I believe, and to know what we value. It really starts with what's valuable. There was a time 2 weeks before I got, stuffed in that squad car that I was about to be worth millions and millions of dollars, and that to the world would have made me rich. Today, I have very little in my bank account, and I feel like the richest woman you've ever met, because what I value, I have. I'm a woman with my 4 children. I get to walk alongside transformational rewritings of stories. I have this beautiful little white fluff ball named Asia, licking my toe at the moment, saying, "Don't forget about me." Okay. I live on the river with the skyline in front of me. And no, I don't have a 6,000 square foot house and a 2-seater convertible in the driveway, but I'm rich because I'm living authentically with integrity about what's important to me. And that's not what we're taught. And so whether it's Instagram or it's the days of Cosmopolitan or Harper's Bazaar or Vogue or whatever influenced us, our mothers, our coaches, our siblings, you can't live outside. It's not your story. You have to learn that you're good enough, and it's okay not even to know how to rewrite your own. That's how I feel. And as I watch women do it and the transformations that happen, including my own, I'm rewriting my story every day, because there are still those voices, the shadow, the not good enough girl, the you can't do this, who are you to do that, you're too much, all of those voices. I want more, but it'll ever, that's all limiting beliefs. And pausing and really going inside, which I was forced to do in my little private monastery called Federal Prison, was a great teacher. It was a great teacher to have nowhere to look. Think about it. Think if you were all like during COVID, look how many people freaked out.
Right.
Limited movement, limited freedom, limited resources. Okay. Because everything was external and what it looks like. Well, name it to tame it, feel it to heal it, and you're on your way.
I might be one of the few people who loved COVID, being stuck at home with my books.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I think I was one of the few people that loved the pandemic, being stuck at home with my books and my dogs.
Yeah, I love them.
I loved it too. It made my practice boom. It's when everything really started. It's when I met Anke. During the pandemic. I never would have stopped long enough to sit for a year on a weekly Zoom with a bunch of people from all over the world. And more than that, at a certain point, not even want to be there. And that's how Anke and I came together, because I looked at her face and she looked at mine. It was like,
what are we doing?
What are we doing here?
Yeah, but I think it's that constant awareness. I think that's where it all starts. Barbara, what's your origin story? Or like the one you shared today, let's say it that way.
Yeah, it's exactly. This is about, that's why one of the reasons why I like to do this show. It gives us all visibility for what we do, why we do it, and who we can help. Because you never know who you're going to meet. And that is what is the important thing now about what we all do. But we had to become who we're meant to be first. And I think each and every one of us has become who we're meant to be. And now we can turn around and help other people. Like one of the things for me, I realized that I lived the first 60 years of my life by somebody else, through somebody else's lens. Because professional women do not wear bright red lipstick or red glasses.
That's right.
That's how I was brought up. And that was really
That's so
hard.
good on you.
It's hard to overcome that stereotyping that we've had. And that's why forums like this is because we're all from different points of the world. We're all different ages. And yet we all sort of had to deal with sort of the same thing. We had to become aware of who we are. Outside.
Well, we had it a lot easier because it's only been the past 10 years or so that we've had the internet.
Right.
And with the internet came likes. And with the likes came, they like me more than they like someone else, or they don't like me as much as they like someone else. And so we are and I'm stepping out on a limb here because that's what I do as a podcaster and storyteller who's still looking for the voice while she's using the voice that she has. We are in a deeply patriarchal society, and it has become increasingly difficult for the young women. And when we came up, there were maybe party lines or maybe fax machines, but we didn't have what we have today. We didn't have the devices that keep us awake at night. We didn't have the bullying that goes on. Sure, we all knew that. We all knew bullying when we were in school, but not to this level. And so when we talk about our achievements today, and they are remarkable, we came up through a different time. Maybe it was a little quieter time. Maybe it wasn't as crazy a time, but it was a time. It was a time.
But, you know, Diane, I mean, I don't know how old you are. I'm almost 69 years old. And when I was growing up, Dolly Parton was singing, you know, you can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, and still be the woman to your man. Like, it was a really confusing message. It wasn't as widespread as wanting likes, external likes to fill your worth and find your joy. But we had our own things. I mean, I think you may be younger than me, but you know, that thinking you could have it all, or that working woman wasn't a conundrum, like a working mother, excuse me. I mean, if you're a mother, you're working, and if you have a job outside, you're triply working. You know, it was all bad messaging. Now it's much more, don't you think? But it's still toxic.
It's different. Yeah, I think it's different. Like each generation, sometimes I'm thinking, well, thank God I'm not young now. It would be really nightmare, you know, kilos of makeup and bullshit. And so definitely, but I think each generation has their own, you know, it's just different. I don't think it's necessarily better or worse. I don't know.
The point that I was trying to make before I was interrupted is that we do each have our own issues, and we are accomplished given those issues. And today, the young women coming up have issues on steroids. And that's the only point that I was trying to make. How do you help women figure out their who before they get to their why when they're looking around at a world of likes? When they're looking around at who's doing it better than I am, when they're looking around at who's got the clothes and the this and the that. That's all I'm trying to say. Yes, we've all had something. Every generation gets a hand dealt to them. But in today's generation, this is really something that these young women have to deal with. And a sense of empathetic imagination as we listen the stories out of them is where we're going to have to turn our attention. That's the point that I was trying to make.
I think, don't you find now that it's more of a comparison? It's the comparison game. Oh, I don't have as many likes or videos or whatever it is. And, oh, I'm not as accomplished as that person. And it's really...
Well, it's
hard because we often compare our inner mess with somebody else's polished facade, and then you kind of don't look good and make that mean something. That if you go down that route, you basically, you know, on a downward spiral for sure.
Every master was once a disaster. Life is a process. Life is a process of trying things on, seeing what fits, and throwing away the rest, isn't it? It doesn't matter what
Absolutely.
area you grow up in or what the influences are. When I was young, Ditto's jeans. If you didn't have Ditto's, you weren't cool. Okay, there's always something that says you're not cool. Come on. Really, ultimately, the thing that makes the difference, in my humble opinion, is the people that we surround ourselves with. And that's the thing that every one of us, whether you're 14 or 45 or 84, we all need to figure out who we can count on so that when we stumble and fall, we know that they'll be there to pick us back up. We know who to link arms with, because it's really the outside influence that my father used to say, you never know how you look till you get your picture took. And I never really got that, but it makes sense. And when you have the outside world, we don't want to depend on what it says to us about us. And at the same time, that feedback is invaluable. Hey, it gives you a clue. Am I on the right path? Is this working for you guys? Good. I'm not crazy. Okay, let's keep going. This resonates. Super. Let's keep going. Oh, this fell on deaf ears. Noted. We are dependent on the external, not influences, but feedback. So who are we listening to? Dud, stud, friend, or foe? Who gets to stay and who's got to go? It really matters who we surround ourselves with. And I think ultimately, instead of searching for the ideal genes or more likes or whatever surface, and everybody goes through it, we find our identity by finding out where it isn't. And to know what you don't want is the other side of what you do want. And it's just as valuable.
Right.
And quite frankly, I think that women today, although yes, they're getting crazy messaging on steroids, I do agree with you, Diane. I think the possibility for them is greater than we ever had, because they have a vehicle and a way. And if we as women who are older or wisdom filled, really want to see them find it earlier than and identify that they matter, what they feel, and there's no compare and despair. It's a values-based thing. The opportunity for them to have way more at a younger age than we did is possible. I see it in my children who are in their 30s and 40s, with, the phones at every second and the tweeting and the Instagram. But I also see the opportunity that they have to know what's valuable and what's not, and ask for help, in ways that without the internet we never had. So it's a conundrum, because it's a gender-based problem, is what I'm hearing you say. The patriarchal forces are at play, and now more than ever, it's our young women who have to stand and rise to what they think is important and can't be swayed with false news and false, stuff. It's a scary time.
I think it's important to have awareness of options, because that was one of the things that I struggled with when I was young. I grew up in a small industrial town in Scotland, and I didn't know what was possible. I read everything that I could get my hands on, but I didn't come from an academic family. I didn't come from even a family of book readers. And I was told in my teens that university wasn't for the likes of us. Thank God I didn't take that on board, and I eventually got there when I was in my early 20s. But I didn't know what was possible because I couldn't see it. And I think that's one thing that the internet does now, that it shows people, women especially, what their options are. You can be an Instagram influencer, you can be a successful businesswoman, you can go and read the news or do whatever it is that you want to do. There's more awareness now of what's possible. And I didn't see that when I grew up. So
I think what this conversation is bringing up is that we each have a voice, and we have values, we have a certain character, we have certain beliefs and awarenesses. Some work for us, some no longer work for us, but we have a voice that we can say something with, whether or not others agree. So if you can incorporate a yes and attitude in your conversation instead of a yes but, you'll have the opportunity to hear more than you would otherwise. And that might be a message to be sending out on the airwaves, that we're each walking each other home. And we do need each other. And we do need the stories that each of us are living right now, as well as an awareness of what hasn't worked for us, like putting on the clothes that we wore when we were in 9th grade. Try that. As well as what is working for us. So everything here is certainly well worth considering and taking in, or like spaghetti, you throw it against the wall, and if it sticks, great. If it doesn't, you just duck. And so that, I think, is the value of conversations like this. Right. That not everybody has to say, I'm in, but that everyone has the opportunity to say, I see it differently. Not I agree with you or I don't agree with you, but I see it differently. And that gives us the opportunity to say, how did you arrive at that position? What is in your background? How can I understand the road that you've walked?
Right.
So maybe that is a message that we can also be sharing today.
Yeah.
Go
Well
with curiosity.
Sorry, I totally missed the last bit. I didn't hear. I heard a bunch of people, and I didn't hear any of what anybody said.
Oh,
All right. Well, okay. So let's. Okay. So now you can hear everybody now.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Right. Well, you know what? We're almost going to be at the end of our time, so I'd love to hear some final words from everybody of just and plus how people can get in touch with you, which would be really great. And okay, I'll just call on people because I have it in a list of how it is. So Lonnee, you happen to be first.
Okay. So, I happen to be working on a book called Speechless.
Ooh.
Giving the voiceless a voice, and we're publishing tomorrow. I love doing books, and you can find me at booklonnee.com. I love to zhuzh up content, help people get their story written, told, and sold as a ghostwriter or collaborator. That's my greatest joy, is to give you a voice, whatever it is.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Diane, any final last words?
You're not going to cross
what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I'll say that you're not going to cross the ocean by standing on the shore. Yeah. So if crossing the ocean is something that you've got in mind, you're going to have to wade out into the water. The best way to get a hold of me is quartermoonstoryarts.net. I work with women who want to shape and share their origin story so that they can connect and shift attitudes, behaviors, cultures, and unbalance the status quo. And I've got an almost 5-year running podcast. It's global, called Stories from Women Who Walk. There are 60-second episodes that I publish daily. So you get something that's sweet and ponderous, maybe, to go into your pocket to illuminate your day. So check it out and subscribe.
Perfect. Awesome. Oops. All right, Lesley. Some final
words. Thank you. My final words are go with curiosity. That's what I want the message to be today. I find that a lot of the people I work with have been in corporate careers for a long time. They forget there are other ways to live that don't involve slaving over a laptop for 60 hours a week. So with curiosity, go and find out what that path is for you, what your passion is. And then if I can help you to take that next step, you'll find me on LinkedIn, Lesley Elder Asner.
Wow, very cool. All right, Ivy.
I think the message I'd like to leave is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And if you want to find me and a wonderful set of evolving tools and a remarkable community, you can find me at a-liberated-life.com.
Cool. All right. And Anke,
My final
Great.
words are to never stop redefining.
yes,
Because most of the time, once you start looking in that direction of what on earth you actually really want in life, and you do leave the shore and start taking that trip, you'll find the first thing you did probably isn't going to be the last thing you're going to do, and it isn't going to be perfect. So to just keep on that, I call it a spiral or tornado, and I just keep iterating and never stop, and until you find a way where you can bring all of you to the table to make the biggest impact for the people that you choose to serve. So find me on LinkedIn. If you love dogs, Soul Touched by Dogs, gonna have to plug that one. So, and otherwise I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. So thank you, Barbara, for creating this stage.
yeah, this has been such fun to have a great panel of ladies, different views, different ages, as I said, different views, different ages, different backgrounds. But you know what? We're all women and we all want to make a difference in the world. And that's one of the things that for me, and so one of the things that I offer people is that if you're listening to this, and we're all going to be sharing it out, but if you're listening to this and you want to do what Anke has done and become a co-host and want to share your message and bring on some panelists of your own, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and absolutely would love to hear from you. Because these are fun and almost everybody. Now, ladies, did you have fun? We said at the beginning that we needed to have fun. So did you have fun?
Absolutely.
We did.
And so that's and it's just because we talked about it at the beginning too, this is all about visibility. People need to know who you are, what you do, and why you do it. Because then they can resonate with you and they can hear your story and your passion and of what makes you tick. And they say, oh, I'm not alone. Because I think that's one of the biggest things that happens to people is they think that they're the only one that feels this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think each and every one of us has felt that moment of aloneness that, oh yeah, what am I going to do? How am I going to go on with the rest of my life? I need help. And you didn't quite know how to reach out. Well, now here we have 6 people that you can reach out to. Nice. And so I just really encourage everybody to reach out to the one who resonates with you. And because not everybody is for everybody. And that's one of the things that I love about this platform is we can all see who we are, what we do, and why we do it. So anyways, does anybody have any last comment or?
Just thank you, Barbara. Thank you for and Anke and all of you, for taking lives of experience into a life of service. Bless you all. Really, thank you.
Thanks. All right, then. Okay, everybody, have a great day. And for those of you that are listening, feel free to reach back out to any of us, and we will see you next time on Striving to Thriving. And just think about for yourself, how are you? I love the questions that we've asked today. How are you going to redefine success in your life? What makes you feel successful? Or are you living by somebody else's rules?
Yeah.
And how can you have more fun today? So have a great day. We'll see you next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.